Currently, there is fake news about me. So last night I wasn't here. I got late word that I was invited to a private roundtable meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It was under what's called Chatham House rules. For those that are not familiar, this means that you cannot reveal anybody who attended, nor attribute anything to any one individual, as they can deny it, and they would. However, what I love about what the White House is currently doing, when you bring together a bunch of influencers and podcasters who don't know much about journalism culture, whatever you want to call it, not that we respect it tremendously, most people didn't know what Chatham House meant. So with all due respect, it's funny because they bring us into the Blair House, which is where Netanyahu was staying. And immediately people are walking around with their cameras, their phones up. They actually took our phones from us. And I legit thought they would maintain Chatham House rules, meaning you can't quote the prime minister, you can't quote his officials and the other people who were there, but you can report what was said generally. If you wanted an official quote on a specific matter, you would then ask an official once the meeting was wrapped, and they'd provide you the exact quote. Or they would just say outright, like, we ain't putting our quotes on that one. So the story that comes out, which basically violated whatever, I was going to talk about what we went there for a reason. This story from Jewish Insider says Netanyahu pushes back on anti-Israel trends in a meeting with podcasters. I don't know if the individual who wrote this, Lahav Harkov, was actually there, but this is wrong. It's fake news. And people are now spreading fake news about me because I'm going to go ahead and say as arrogantly as I can to everyone else who was there. I hope you all hear me, because I'm saying this somewhat facetiously. I think I was the only one that asked a real question. Now that I've pissed off all the other journalists and individuals who were there, most people were asking what I would describe as, I don't know, I felt like pretty obvious questions. Is there going to be a war with Iran? Do you think the nuclear talks are going to be good? The Trump is going to be talking with you. Will it work out for you? What's the concern? What's going on with your prime ministership or whatever? And you get these answers that I really felt like you could have just got off Fox News. You know, the prime minister is going to get asked about this stuff and he's going to say, I can't speak too much on the nuclear deals, blah, blah, blah. Considering this was Chatham House and it was expected that whatever he said was going to come out, I didn't see anything really substantive. However, in the story, they say, Poole expressed concerns about increased anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in the pro-Trump podcasting space, according to sources in the room. So they weren't there. Poole famously had Kanye West on his podcast, and the rapper walked out mid-interview after Poole pushed back against anti-Semitic comments. Responding to Poole, Netanyahu said that the reason he invited the group is to meet with him. To me? Poole argued that there is a Qatari op to manipulate social media algorithms to make anti-Semitic and anti-Israel episodes appear to receive far more views than, say, tips for picking up women, in order to incentivize podcasters and YouTubers to produce more anti-Semitic content. Netanyahu, however, was non-committal in his response, saying that's only possible. Fake news!
How dare you, Tim?
Absolute fake news. It's close to reality, but this is what they do, okay? First, the person who was there clearly wasn't there. Ask somebody who then conveyed incorrectly what I actually said. I said there has been a report released from pro-Israel sources alleging Qatar is funding bots and operations to promote anti-Israel content. Is there any evidence that's true? And he said, I don't know. It's possible. That's what happened. I did not say they actually were doing that because I don't know that they're actually doing it. However, I did, to a variety of people, express what I've expressed on this show, that there are clearly bots that are anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. That is not to say that people who are critical of Israel don't exist or that no one is critical of Israel. People certainly are. So my concern was, and I will say this too, speaking about the meeting, how they discussed Iran, the threat, and all of these things, I feel, based on that meeting, and I don't know if this was their intention or otherwise, that they are absolutely clueless as to what is going on in this country. They are too heavily focused on kinetic, on the ground Israel issues, which I can understand, I guess. And my attitude, and I'll tell you one thing I said to them, to these officials: in 10 years, your support will be your support from the U.S. will be evaporating, and in 20 years, you will not have U.S. support. That's what I said. So, and I stand by that. I don't know, when it came to talks about Iran, certainly there was a deep concern, and the general conveyance from the Israelis was, Iran says death to America. You are their principal target. They are upset that the U.S. is exerting power in the region, which they want to exert. So they're coming for you. Israel's an ally of the United States. Israel's an enemy of Iran. Iran wants to crush Israel, and they want to crush the United States. The sentiment being conveyed was whether the U.S. wants it or not, we will be in a war with Iran, whether we start it or they start it. I'm not entirely convinced that's true. And the point I brought up when I mentioned the allegations, which they're allegations of, I don't know if there's evidence of this, which is why I asked, about Qatari. Let me see if I can pull this up. I think I actually have the allegations in question. Let me see if I can find this. Here we go. What is this? FDD.
There are people that are saying that Tucker Carlson is being funded by Qatar as well.
I don't believe that anyone's being funded by Qatar. So FDD, this is the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, says Al Jazeera allegedly using bots to spread propaganda while skirting U.S. law. This came out December 9th. I did not assert this was true. I said, is there evidence to corroborate this? Largely because what I see happening is multifaceted. I've talked to enough young people, probably not enough to be completely honest, but I've talked to young people. Where's the story? Here we go. Who are scared to call for the suspension of TikTok, largely because of the anti-Israel cohort. So typically the conversations go, the only reason Democrats and Republicans want to ban TikTok is because of Israel, which is true and correct. But there's a bunch of other reasons why we should force TikTok to divest as well. I see the younger protesters are largely anti-Israel. And I see right now there is no message conveyed to young people why they should support Israel. And I'm not saying that I do. I'm asking them, what are you paying attention to? Now, I'll tell you this. My having left this meeting is they are clueless to the issue. They don't know, despite the fact there was literally a protest outside, they were dismissive of. They say these things happen. The trends that I see are younger people are increasingly anti-Israel. And on the right, they're relatively neutral or don't care. My prediction, as I made over a year ago, is that with the anti-war elements of the populist movement on the right and the anti-Israel section of the left, not to mention there is a smaller but still prominent anti-Israel right, Israel's not going to have support from this country in 20 years. The U.S. is going to say, we've got two factions. Young people on the right who are following in the footsteps of MAGA populist movement, who don't want to fund foreign wars, they vote no on Israel. The far left that hates Israel, they vote no on Israel. Israel, you get no funding anymore. That's what I see happening.
I think that's fairly obvious when you talk to any, Zoomers. They're clearly not pro-Israel. They look at the United States and say, look, we have our own problems here. And they look at our history of, foreign adventurism, and they're like, this hasn't worked out for me personally. I can't afford this. I can't pay bills, or I can't have a nice place, or whatever. So I think it's fairly obvious, right?
I think it comes from a lack of education on how foreign policy actually works, and the fact that you literally cannot survive in this world without allies. 10 guys show up to beat you up. Are you going to fight them all by yourself? No, you need friends. Right? What's that?
What?
I said Phil might.
Yeah. But you see this from people in Congress too, that they just don't understand how foreign policy works. I think is really unfortunate. But the other issue to what you're talking about with the lack of Gen Z support for Israel is there are no pro-Israel champions that I really see. I talk about Israel a lot. I'm a raging Zionist. But I don't see a whole lot of other people who have a firm understanding of the history and the context.
Most people can't make a cogent argument that that young people find compelling as to why we should. Which
is why on the right, it's sure, Israel can do its thing, don't care. And on the left, it's down with Israel. So I actually, here's a question for you guys. Can you, honest question, this is not a gotcha, because I'm looking for a real answer. And for those that are listening, comments. Can you name a prominent, high-profile, large following, I'm talking like a podcast with millions of listeners, who is staunchly pro-Israel, advocating very heavily for Israel?
Someone who's Gen Z?
No, anybody in the podcast space.
Dennis Prager is
like Ben Shapiro's an obvious one. My point is, I'm not saying there's none. I'm saying I can think of a bunch of big shows that are either Israel neutral or skeptical, and leftists who are anti-Israel.
Is Destiny pro-Israel?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he
There's
is.
that one.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro's the
I
obvious
had a
one.
notion that he was.
And he's a lot, and it's not a critique of anybody who is. I'm just saying, my point to these people was, hey, look, man, I'm on the internet all day, every day. I live in the internet. It's become a problem. And all I see is I either don't care about Israel or Israel is bad.
Yeah, it's because they don't understand. And I think Destiny actually is.
Destiny. Why is he pro-Israel?
I don't know. Destiny sometimes takes rational approaches, but the problem is that Destiny is probably the best defender of Israel I've seen in terms of debate skills. But for anyone on the right, it's just like, oh, that guy's pro-Israel. I better not be pro-Israel, right? So it's just a problem.
He's definitely not on the right. He's in.
Look,
Sorry, I mean,
people watching him.
Yeah,
who are
yeah.
on the
Anyone
right.
who's on the right who's like, oh, this guy's really good at defending Israel. He's also like a terrible.
He's an absolute horrible person. Like he's
Right.
he's the worst advocate.
He literally comes out and says,
Maybe that means
violence
he's
against Trump
actually
supporters is
not
okay.
Pro-Israel. He knows
Right.
they'll have that reaction.
No,
But here's the question. Let's cut out anybody over 40. Are there young prominent personalities with big followings who are
Destiny
pro-Israel?
over 40?
I think
He
it
is, yeah.
Wow, really?
I think.
No, I
I
don't
thought
think
so.
But either way, we've acknowledged Destiny exists.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, obviously there's prominent personalities who are older who are pro-Israel. I get it. My question is, in the next 20 years, who will be leading the charge to have the U.S. fund Israel? Look, man, I got to be honest. I look at, Sam Harris was ragging on Joe Rogan recently, and people have been ragging on Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, saying that they're entertaining these positions, blah, blah, blah. Tucker's a bit older. Joe's a bit older. But these are big shows. And the people they're having on these shows of influence are either, again, like Dave Smith is a great example. He says he's not anti-Israel, he's pro-America. So he doesn't want the U.S. funding it. A lot of the MAGA pro-Trump people do not want the U.S. funding Israel. So there's a tiny faction of people who are younger and in favor of the U.S. Funding Israel.
It doesn't make any sense to not like. So it doesn't.
What is the argument for
I think
funding
Aiden
Israel?
Ross
Yeah,
is
yeah.
pro-Israel.
Is he really?
I think so.
Someone
Okay.
said Aiden Ross.
Yeah.
The argument for funding Israel is that almost all of the money we give Israel goes into their military. So first of all, from a capitalist perspective, the best part of that is you're taking public dollars and reinjecting them into the private sector. We don't give any money to Israel. We give money to our defense companies. They give weapons to Israel. So the primary benefit of that is like a really good example is in 1981, Israel battle tested F-15s for the first time ever. These F-15s had never been battle tested. They flew them in combat against Iraq. We learned our F-15s were capable of long-range bombing campaigns against Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor. They didn't lose a single F-15 in battle against Russian MiGs at the height of the Cold War. That was great. They were the first to battle test our F-35 Lightning II.
Sure, but that's 40 years ago. So what's today?
F-35 Lightning IIs are today. Trophy systems and Abrams tanks. They were the first to test them. They were one of the first to test JDAMs. So today they're still providing us with like the money we give them. We are essentially just an R&D program for our military. Look at like what they do economically. The Leviathan and Tamar oil fields. These are massive oil fields in the Mediterranean off the coast of Israel in Israeli waters. And U.S. LNG company was able to completely take over those oil fields. It's called Noble. They're, I believe, based in Dallas-Fort Worth. We made tons of money off that. We also regularized relations with Arab countries in the region by selling them the oil. Tel Aviv is the fourth biggest city in the world for tech startups. We usually wait for them to start new tech companies and then buy them. The technology that's in Teslas, Mobileye, it's called, is an Israeli invention that Intel bought. Sorry, I didn't mean to bang the table. But
How much money does Israel get every year from the United States?
like $3 billion, which is
Yeah, the amount of money that Israel gets isn't actually a lot compared to the way that people talk about how much. There are arguments that the Middle East wars that the U.S. is engaged in are all for Israel. I'm not particularly. I don't find those arguments generally compelling, but that's something you hear a lot.
It's not very much.
And that would be that. If that's the case, that the wars the U.S. is engaged in the Middle East are for Israel, and then you tack that money in, then you're talking about significant expenditures.
A little bit. The other thing, too, is that money creates jobs in our own defense companies because, again, it never goes to Israel, it goes to our defense companies. On the political side, Israel votes with the United States more than any other country in the world on contested UN votes. 90% of the time, it's more than Canada, it's more than the UK, it's more than anyone we consider to be a close ally. So the like what everybody's calling the woke right, who insists that Israel is not an ally, they're what do they call it, a detriment or whatever, right? They're off their rocker and they don't know anything effectively. They're definitely not holding us back. They are a very strong ally that gives us a lot of benefits, whether it's on the political, the military, or the economic.
In 2024, they got $6.8 billion,
Yeah.
and Ukraine got 6.5.
The money that Israel gets is directly in weapons, so that money actually goes to U.S. weapons manufacturers, and so that money does go into the U.S. economy. So I understand people making the argument, well, it helps the economy. I mean,
Yo, this is crazy. I mean, just even outside of the whole issue of Israel, take a look at how much money the U.S. is giving to everyone.
oh, it's ridiculous.
Sudan got
End it all.
$800 million. Nigeria got 770 million. Look at all this. Is crazy. Malawi? How do you say that? Malawi. There you go. See, I couldn't even pronounce that one. $637 million. Here's my pitch. We take all of the money we give to all these countries and give it to random firefighters. Just put it on a big pool and then just dish out $1 million to every firefighter we can until we run out.
But a lot of this money is also to prevent, like, to put U.S. influence over these countries, take a drop in the foreign aid bucket, give it to these countries so they're dependent on the United States and China doesn't swoop in and take them as a...
It is. It's the liberal economic order.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that if we maintain, if you tell those leaders, hey, look, man, you're going to be a millionaire. You're going to have an infinity pool and every luxury car. Don't go to war. They say, okay. And if they don't listen, then, helicopter flies in the middle of the night and then they're not the leader anymore. That's how it goes.
Yeah, well.
6 points. So this is obviously not correct. They got more than in 2024. Ukraine got more than 6.5 billion.
Yeah,
depends how they're calculated. How are they calculated?
Right.
Because a lot of it was just like old military equipment.
2023. What do we get for Ukraine? What is this? France, get out of here. 2023. We don't need it. You can go away. 28 billion. Wow. What did Israel get in 2023?
Not 28 billion.
Not 28 billion. No.
3 billion. 28 billion. What?
We're fighting the war. I mean, this war wouldn't be going on if we were not fighting.
Yeah, I mean that's
been over.
Jeez, man.
Conversely, if we weren't funding Israel, Israel would still be fighting the war, and they'd be doing probably just fine, as they've shown time and time again before we funded them. But
I think the principal reason that people in this country are supportive of Israel is for religious reasons. I think
a lot of
it's
Christians.
Evangelicals, a lot of them.
Yep, and it's fascinating that I guess what before modern Israel, what was there? What did they call it?
Mandatory Palestine, or Eretz Israel, land of Israel, mandatory Palestine.
Interesting.
And then before that, it was obviously the Ottoman Empire.
We were talking about this a while ago, that there are people who are intentionally trying to create the circumstances by which revelation happens.
Yep.
So we talked about like the red heifers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're intentionally trying to breed them so that they can have them. And some people, I watched this interesting little mini documentary about Armageddon, and they were saying that there's some people who believe that it's the book of Revelation, right? Is it plural? It's Revelation, right? I don't know.
Sure.
They say it's singular.
It's the revelation.
Yeah, which is, I think Armageddon means revelation too, right? There are people who believe it's predictive. This is what will happen. There are people who believe it is descriptive. This is what did happen. And there are people who believe it's a, how would you describe it? It's telling you what to do. It's describing
Instructions.
Right. It's instructive. There you go. And some people are a mix of all of these things. And there are people with power that are trying to intentionally bring about the circumstances from the book of Revelation so that they can force the coming of the Messiah, or they believe that when they accomplish these tasks, it will happen. So I don't know about all that. All I know is there's people, they exist, right? They're breeding the red heifers or whatever. I don't know if they're prominent. But I do believe when you look at the United States, today it's overwhelmingly pro-Israel. It's like 70, 80% pro-Israel. But I think if you go to look at the younger generation, it's probably split. It's probably way less than that, maybe less than 50-50.
Yeah.
Probably general opposition.
The general pro-Israel stance too is probably mostly people who just view it as a default thing. Like,
Right,
I remember
exactly.
when I was a kid and abortion was a thing. I was just like default. Yep, I'm pro-choice because that's how we ride in the 21st century. Until I looked into it, but I think that's probably the case for most people who are like pro-Israel. They're not talking about it.
Interesting. 18 to 24-year-olds. A poll found Harvard-Harris, 48% support Hamas.
Yeah.
That's
Like that's what it says.
Yes.
That's what
Mine
it
would
says
be-
on the survey. Do you support Hamas? Yes or no? That's what it says.
Young Americans have
I mean,
mixed
that's-
views about Hamas. Let me pull it up.
I am fine
Yeah,
with
yep.
people that are critical of Israel and don't like Israel, but supporting Hamas
I don't think
is
they know what.
Harvard-Harris poll from March found 40% of Americans, 80 to 24,
They're a
24
terrorist
said
organization.
they support Hamas over Israel.
But I don't think they know what Hamas is.
No, they don't. Of course.
Like I don't think they know what that word means.
Their charter literally says that their day of judgment, so like whatever the rapture, like it says the day of judgment will not come about until the Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews.
Yeah.
Oh, it's worse than that, brother.
Yeah, when the Jews
It's
are
actually
killing
in the
the Jews.
Hadith.
Yeah, it's a hadith. Yeah, exactly.
It says that until the Muslims fight the Jews, and every rock and tree will say, "Oh, Muslim,
Yes.
come! There's a Jew hiding behind me. Come kill him."
There's a Jew behind me. Come and kill him. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Except the Garknad tree, which is a Jew lover tree. That one won't.
That one won't.
No, yeah. No, read it.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, you know that one really bothers me because like all of these rules you get on social media companies about hate speech, and I'm like, bro, there's a religion that has like a tenet that says they have to kill another religion. Like, come on,
Complete their religion.
we're not going to respect all religions here, dude.
Yeah, oh,
Part
no.
of it also is that they have to lie to non-believers about what they believe in order to make them join Islam.
Well, I think they can lie. I don't know that says they
Yeah.
have to lie.
Okay.
They're the same kind of comments about Judaism as well. Like if in the Talmud, I guess there's some really controversial things that are in there that people tend to cite a lot. There's a lot of people that are in my mentions frequently being like, read the Talmud, and they hate you. They hate you because you're a Gentile or whatever.
But the difference
You're a goy.
between that is that a hadith is the word of the Prophet Muhammad, right?
Yeah.
That's what they believe hadiths are. They are the word of Prophet Muhammad, and the Quran says that the word of Prophet Muhammad is the word of God, and whatever he says goes, and that's what you follow. The Talmud is 2,000 pages of rabbis arguing about what biblical law says, right? So none of it is like authoritative, and you don't have to follow it. But the hadiths you do.
One thing I don't get about like Islam is like Islam says that Christians are polytheists, right? They say that because they worship the Trinity, they say they're polytheists. But at the same time, they say that Muhammad is like Muhammad's words are the word of God word of Allah. Yeah. So that's the same thing, isn't it? Or at least it's. I mean, it's.
That you think they view Muhammad as a deity?
No. Well, I mean, the way they behave, they would say they don't. Right. But to an outsider, it looks the same as the way that, people treat Christianity when it comes to the way that Christ and God and the Holy Spirit are one, And
there are different degrees of hadiths, which is based on, I believe, like the how strong the belief is that Muhammad actually said this thing. So I don't know what degree that hadith that says the day of judgment will come about to the Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews, is, but it doesn't matter because there is a group that, what was it, 24% of Gen Zers said that they support that does believe that.
48.
48. Okay, great. Even worse.
Yeah, didn't I just pull it up? Where did it go?
I don't know.
Yeah, here you go. New York Post. It says, Harvard-Harris poll, 48% of Americans aged 24 say they would support Hamas over the Jewish state, making them the only age demographic for which Israel did not enjoy at least a double-digit support over the terror group in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Hamas is a terrorist organization.
No, and guess what's legal in the Gaza Strip, by the way? And actually every other Muslim country that I can think of except Jordan. Child rape. You can marry a child. There is no legal age of marriage in any of these countries. And spousal rape is legal. If you can marry a child and you can... what does that equal? Yeah. Sudan has a legal age of marriage at 10 years old. In Jordan, it's 18. In the West Bank, it's actually 18 as well, which is very surprising. But Gaza never adopted that rule. So, yep.
Crazy.
It's wonderful.
Well, that's...
I guess we'll grab another segment after this, but my final thoughts on this meeting. My view would be that... Man, I don't know. There's concerns over Iran getting a nuclear weapon. Trump is supposed to be having talks Saturday, with Iran that I don't know are going to go well. And
we're back in Bagram as well.
Exactly. We're back in Bagram. The general sentiment that was conveyed to us was whether we want a war with Iran or not, Iran is intent on destroying us. So obviously... it was expressed, we don't want war, but if these nuclear talks don't go well and they begin to work towards a nuclear weapon, they never said anything like there's going to be war, but that was the general vibe of like, no one's going to let Iran get a nuclear weapon. It's going to get bad. I don't want war. I don't want to be involved. I don't have any good answers for you guys. Sorry. The U.S. is going to do weird, crazy stuff, and they're going to lie to us the whole time.
Yeah, I was surprised when I read that the U.S. was going to go back into Bagram. It only makes the Abbey Gate and the pullout that much more infuriating that, the Biden administration pulls out and we gave the Taliban a boatload of weapons. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not sure what the agreement is or how the Taliban plans to guarantee that there won't be attacks on Bagram other than, massive amounts of U.S. military hardware pointed outward from the airbase,
I haven't read this story like are they giving assurances that there won't be attacks?
I don't know, but I know
we don't know that we're taking back Bagram. They said like a CIA plane flew overhead and did weird stuff.
Okay, which could mean anything.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.